leaving your daughter.
You need to open it?
No.
No, you need to, okay.
Did he pick it out or you did?
I was just looking, I thought I saw fruit.
Yeah, he did.
Sure.
Like I got any more than
Can't get any more special than that. Waiting.
Here's the chairman now.
Proud moment. Congratulations.
Please.
You're sitting vice
Welcome
chairman.
to the new transition of your life.
I know, I'm saying, you're the vice chairman.
Keep the man with the plan.
What's that from? What's that from?
There's a reason for the plan.
Now, there's,
The battery is broken, right? Yeah,
it was not a, it was, I'll
Oh,
tell
I
you.
got it, I got railed very difficult. You know what?
One day,
just
was-
did.
one day, it was not a good
Don't
night.
do it. Oh my God, all you had to do was this and all you had to do was that, but nobody lets you
I can't
only
do all
just do
that
this
to go
or do
away.
that, do that. Right? Think about that.
No, it's just me.
Yes, there's no
I
doubt.
had a guy.
It's just, you wanna,
No, I love
you try to change.
Oh, you would
things,
ask
people always after the fact, and how easy it is for you to change, but they don't let you.
Right at the, where we were
You
sitting.
know what I mean? It's very true. People don't let you change.
Other document that's underneath that? Yes.
What's going on with
Do you need a moment? Do you need a room?
That's something that I do whenever I always run into somebody. It's my sound effects.
I have food in my mouth, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
it's okay, don't worry about
Happy
it.
to see you look beautiful.
I'm only trying to start.
That's good, no use have to assume.
Okay, gosh.
Yeah, because we have a form about this.
I've had stuff come through.
But people do here to do this.
Oh, did you? Awesome. Yeah.
All right, you want to get started or?
This girl.
Time is now 11:37 a.m., September 11th, 2019. I'd like to take a roll call for attendance. Mr. Brooks?
Here.
Mr. Calabro?
Here.
Mr. Flansbrough?
Here.
Mr. Katz? Mr. Schuster? Mr. Stafford Smith?
Here.
Mr. Kirschner?
Here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you want the flag salute now?
Yeah.
Can you miss it now? Very good.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our service before I have all over the world protecting us. Some will have fallen in the line of duty. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, don't move.
That's right. You got what you need?
Yeah.
You need to get closer?
Okay.
Good?
Okay.
Okay, at this time, we'll just do we have some of the bare necessities here. The minutes of the October 23rd, 2019 meeting were distributed to Commissioner.
Move to accept the minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. the statement of accounts has been presented for your information, dated December 11th. I'm looking for an acceptance.
Yeah, I'm looking at that statement of accounts.
Second?
Can you roll for that?
No, just
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? No nays. All right.
we have the bill list, and the bill list is attached, to the statement of accounts. It is separated into two different accounts, one of them being our standard operation accounts, and, the Strand Theater Apartments, accounts. So the total bill list is $28,466.46.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move the bill list.
Second?
Any questions? And roll call.
Roll for that?
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Calabro?
Yes.
Mr. Glassman?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Abstain from,
Mr. Kirchner needs to abstain from voting on number 3799. Yeah. Right?
Six and 99.
So you're abstaining from this?
All right.
Okay. I think we just Mr. Mueller and Mr. Cook. Mr. Mueller, Jack Mueller, and Adam Cook, which is a term.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Introduce two celebrities.
Good morning.
Presentation.
Yes, so I circulated previously, this to Mr. Ryman, whether circulated to the members. BMG actually, Adam Pfeffer represents BMG, I have Jack Mueller here as well as Scott Kennel, traffic engineer, to discuss traffic concerns. Previously, BMG had come before the LIC to discuss this piece of property. And while at that, I think it was some time ago, the LIC had some concerns regarding the county and traffic. I'd asked us to go back and do some due diligence and get some information from the county, which we have, and that's what Mr. Kendall is going to be addressing shortly. I just wanted to talk about what BMG has in mind for this property. What they are looking to do is to have a educational research facility with apartments above it for the students who are going to be doing the research. This zone that we're in is the airport business commercial zone, where I know some of you are thinking, wait a second, schools or houses of worship are not permitted in this zone. However, there is a caveat where it talks about a research facility specifically for higher education as being one of the things that are permitted in this zone. And that's what we are proposing here. The other, I just want to call it the elephant in the room, you guys are the LIC, right? So you're here to grow industry. And I know the concern would be that if this building is going to be owned by a nonprofit, it would be, subsequently would be exempt, and there would be some concerns on your end. I'm here also to state, and Jack could give a little bit more information on this. BMG is probably in Lakewood, one of the largest in the county. That's definitely a very large organization which helps the economy grow. They did actually, BMG did a study, and in 2018, they can directly point to over $200 million of money that were spent in Lakewood and in the county as well. They're approaching, we have 6,800 students who live in town, who spend money, and all this stuff is here. So the idea that I want to get past the idea of wait a second, we may sell a piece of property, that'll be a tax exempt and won't be a rateable. However, the students that are coming that are gonna be living there are gonna be spending money, in town. Additionally, there's a long history of being these students who've gone on to start businesses that have been substantially, or very substantial businesses in town. And so there is a help that while it won't be a rateable per se, it will help to grow the actual townships, of numbers. As far as what we're proposing, as I indicated again, it will be a research facility in 2 buildings, with, student housing above it for the research of their families. If I can ask, Mr. Kennel, if he can just step up and talk about the property, its location, and kind of like it's a little bit of a quirky property with regard to access.
Yes, hi, Scott Kennel with McDonough and Ray Associates. I've been involved with Jack Miller on this property, looking at it for over a year. We had a meeting with the county back in May, and this site is access challenged. One, because of the limited frontage along Cedar Bridge Avenue, and then also wetlands that impact accessibility not only to Cedar Bridge, but also if we were to go out to the south, down to the Lowe's shopping center out to Route 70, there's a major tributary that would, as I've been told, would be a very big lift to get any DEP approvals. So when we met with the county, their obvious concern was the type of traffic, the proximity to the Garden State Parkway ramp, and the traffic signal that's there. And, you know, we indicated to them that the access would be approximately 300 feet thereabouts from the ramp. And we got talking about the type of traffic. And this use is basically predominantly passenger vehicles. And we would design the site as a right-in, right-out. And they also asked that on Cedar Bridge Avenue that there be a median along the access frontage to, again, enforce the fact that it's right in, right out, prohibit the left turns. And with passenger vehicles, there are opportunities for U-turns. The jug handle for the parkway there, anybody coming from Route 70 can make that U-turn. For tractor trailers, the geometry is marginal to accommodate trucks. And as far as anybody that would be leaving the site with destinations to the west, they have the exit traffic signal to the east at Wedgewood, where they can make U-turns, and again, those U-turns are more accommodating for passenger vehicles than for larger vehicles that would be generated by an industrial type use. So in general, the meeting was positive. They just requested that an in-depth analysis of not only the site access, but of the GSP signalized intersection as well as Wedgewood for the type of development proposed. And as Adam stated, this is going to be residential and a research facility. And so as a result, a lot of the students will be working on site, and again, would have lower traffic activity than, say, just a generic residential community. And that was all conveyed to the county, and they were, again, as I say, they're responsive, just subject to a more in-depth, should we be able to move forward beyond today.
Scott, the way the property is situated today, is it, with the access, is this a good spot for a warehouse facility in its current condition with the right-in only and right-out only?
Well, the issue is you have to provide a geometry for a large wheelbase vehicle such as trucks, industrial type vehicles. The issue is, as I stated earlier, accessibility and to be able to accommodate U-turns. There aren't facilities immediately adjacent to this property that can accommodate U-turns for larger wheelbase vehicles, and therefore that means more travel time to on adjacent roadways going out to Route 70, and they want to get back west, have to go down Route 70, make a right and loop back around, and it's a very long circuitous route and more travel time to accommodate the larger vehicles.
And in the scale of impact of use and traffic, would this be on the lower end of the impact?
The number of runs that are proposed here, it could be anywhere from 40 to 50 movements in and out of the property. during the peak hours, which again is somewhat comparable if you did a commercial use on this property. The benefit is, it's, other than refuse vehicles that would service the site, you're not gonna have large wheelbase vehicles, going onto the property.
Any members have any questions of Mr. Kennel on concerns on traffic? So again, what we're asking for this evening is, this afternoon, is that the board consider this request. Should the board deem that it's something that you would be interested in, we would ask that obviously an analysis be done. Anything that we would be looking to do would be subject to obviously township land use approval, and then we would be able to proceed on that.
I just meant to mention there's another aspect of the county meeting. They also limited us on the number of dwelling units, so it would be anywhere from 90 to 100. And it's all predicated on the number of parking spaces, so we couldn't have a development in excess of 200 parking spaces. So again, there was that condition that, again, is consistent with the numbers I quoted as far as activity from the site.
So I guess just to sum up, we would be seeking to acquire the parcel, to obtain land use approval to build a research facility for higher education of BMG with student research housing above it. It'll be 2 buildings, the block of lots are provided for you. We're asking you take this into consideration, and if so, you let us know, we will proceed with the research and the application. Yes.
I have a question for you. Talking about density and units, how many units are we talking about?
I think what Scott was indicating, I think it's gonna be based upon the parking, but it wouldn't be more, I think it was 99 or 90, it's somewhere between 90, no more than 100.
Right.
This plan says 90. The plan that you have in front of you says 90.
The plan proposes 90
45 in
units.
each building.
And they're apartments, so there would be a 4 or 5 story, each building would be 4 or 5 stories, with the research on the bottom level and then housing above it. So the proposal would be 45 units per building.
I think the last time that gentleman appeared before us, he made a reference to Princeton Avenue. And
It was somebody else, actually. It was,
he said that, right?
it was Tom Stearns, that was here last time. So he drew the parallel, but obviously it's not exactly, it's not exactly the same thing. In Princeton Avenue, they had an existing, the old Princeton Avenue school building that they were using for the research facility, and what they built adjacent to it was the student housing. Here they're proposing to combine those into a different, so it's a different layout, different numbers mix.
And we're talking, how many units?
A maximum
90.
of 100, 90.
Right, the proposal we have before you is 2 buildings of 45 units in each building.
Part of it would be,
Yes, the first floor would be a research facility, and the housing would be for the students doing the research.
the size of the units that we're talking about.
And they have
Between 2 and 4 bedrooms.
between 2 and 4 bedroom in each apartment. Again, they're apartments, they're not gonna be overly large, they'd have to meet the criteria, so.
Would the deal be predicated on obtaining the permit to cross the wetlands?
I want it subject to.
It'll be subject to all the approvals.
They're all approved. And I can address that.
Yes, if I can maybe have this, Mr. Mueller.
We
address.
hired an attorney, Mike Gross, who's a CAFRA expert. He says it's doable. It's just a matter of mitigation, which means that we would have to buy another property and donate it for, using this, going over this wetlands, we'd have to buy another property someplace else, and dedicate it so that it can never be used, and replace it as a wetland. It's called mitigation. And that's a process, especially when there's a piece that like this, that's basically land. And so it's doable, just a question of money. It'll cost us money to do.
How many acres need to get mitigated?
the amount of the wetlands, which is, it's over an acre. The wetlands itself is over an acre.
No other questions? I'm gonna leave, I'll give Mr. Ryman, like I said, the EMG had done a study, an analysis of their impact on the community and the county. I'll leave copies of, hard copies of it with Mr. Ryman to distribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This has been emailed to them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
We are the budget to actual on the presentation, so now we're going to some comments about it.
Number 6. Comments for the public.
What comments from the public? Anybody would like to say something? A report?
The presentation or public?
No,
comments
public,
in
it's
general?
open for public comments in general.
Yes, hi, Jeff Hale and Dan Solar on behalf of the solar companies. Jeff Hale and Dan Solar on behalf of the solar company.
Morning.
How are you?
Jeff Hale from the Sun.
Yeah, it's Jeff Hale and Dan Solar from the solar companies. And, one of the topics we wanted to just, bring to your attention today was, there's been some prior discussion about parking policies in the park, the industrial park, or currently lack thereof. You know, there's been some discussions back and forth about implementing a parking plan. And we just wanted to follow up on the progress of that plan. Our park is seeing some parking concerns, and quite frankly, the police department doesn't have any enforceability because there's no real parking regulations. So we've had a recent occurrence of overparking, overflow, and, you know, we have some concerns about how this is going to be managed going forward.
If I may, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Department. Jeff was nice enough to call me the other day and alert me to this. There was an event at one of the schools in the park, and parking became an issue. And so I've been out there, I've met with the school administration, who was very cooperative. They've put up signs all around the school, which they've done in the past, you know, as well. And I guess this is something where you have to really keep your finger on the pulse and keep on top of it. Since they put up signs alerting people to the fact that there's no parking on one side of the street, it's better. They still have to monitor it, and I had a discussion with them about it. I've also taken back an action item that we're gonna do internally, which is we're gonna ask the public works, as we've done in other parts of town, where people tend to park too close to intersections, which creates site triangle problems and so on, but it also creates turning radius problems for the trucks. We're going to ask them to paint the curb yellow and put up some signage until we get the regulations in place. And this is a good time to say that we're moving forward with our plans for the park and ride, that the township committee had asked us to move forward on as an element of reintroducing no parking in certain areas of the park. The commission will remember that once upon a time, there was no parking anywhere on the streets in the park. Everything had to be on the street. A lot of that has changed just over the years, but I think we've basically ended up with nearly no parking regulations, and that has impacted a number of streets worse than others. There are some that are pure through streets that you don't find a lot of parking on the street, and then there are some where it clusters up, and it's not necessarily because of schools, it could be the type of businesses that are located there. Certainly, we know take away because of the hole that's there. From time to time, there's a lot of parking along the street, and it creates problems. So we're going to do what we can to address some of the intersection points with signage and with curb striping, curb painting, and then follow through with the township committee, but it is one of our agenda items, and we are attuned to it. But I thank you for coming to us with it, and in the interim, until things are solidified in such a way that it's not a problem at all, at any time. And I'm happy to work with you to address issues with any school, business, whomever, to ask them to be more cooperative if we want to. I've not encountered anybody who said no, and so, in fact, some of them have asked us, please do put in regulations, because it makes it easier for them to encourage people to comply.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. If you don't mind, I just have a couple of questions. The first one is the parking regulations dependent on the development of the park and ride?
So there's a couple of dynamics that go on in the park. Once upon a time, the idea was if you have a business, everything, you have to provide on your site enough off-street parking, so that the only parking that would happen at the curb is casual, occasional, a client comes, a customer, a vendor, they'll park at the curb, it's very short term, and there's never a volume of traffic. Over the years, whether, for a variety of reasons, there are a number of properties that have been developed in the park that do not have sufficient parking off-street to handle all of that. And in some places, it's not so impactful, it's not as impactful.
Sure.
So for example, one of the streets that is that pain point, on one side of the street, you can have parking when the other side is kept clean. It's easy for traffic to move through, and it actually can work. There are other places in the park where it would be more of an issue and a bigger problem. At the same time, there's also a dynamic where we have a de facto park and ride because of our proximity to the Garden State Parkway. A lot of commuters come in early in the morning and park in various streets and then cluster together in a single car to do carpooling. And because we identified that dynamic, we've been looking for a few years now for a solution to create a park and ride, a municipal park and ride, where people can do that well. We've identified the property. We're working now with our Public Works Department on a development plan, and we hope to have it active by the spring. So there'll be a park and ride, it'll be in place, and at the same time, we're working with the township committee on which streets should get which regulations, and then once they adopt the ordinances, deployment will be quick.
And I think we are in agreement that the park and ride will be helpful, but I guess my question is, are these two things binary?
So I don't know. I think that creating no parking regulations where the enforcement that must come after the adoption of the ordinances to make it worthwhile means you're gonna end up issuing summonses to people who are not necessarily creating problems. So if we do a blanket no parking across the park, it's gonna have some
Oh, sure, no,
some
that's
flaw.
not what I'm suggesting.
But no,
maybe
it's not
one
binary
side-
in
maybe
terms
one
of
side of
dealing with
the-
certain streets.
Right, so like maybe one side of the street, if you're trying to keep cars on one side,
Yes.
and maybe put parking regulations on the other side, so that way police can enforce that and allow.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and we're working with.
I'm just asking you to consider.
No, 100%, and
I
I'll ask
appreciate
our-
everyone's efforts on this. I
Yeah.
didn't realize
Wait,
this was kind of
I have a
serious.
question. There's no regulation now, there's no ordinance in place now for parking in the industrial park.
Now they park anywhere you want.
Yes.
I just want to call to your attention, the officer was unable to write any citations because no one violated anything.
That's,
Because there's no ordinance that he could write it on.
I'm just repeating the officer's remark to me when I said, why aren't you writing a ticket? A truck got jackknifed and blocked off 2 roads, impacting life safety access. I asked the officer, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, based on what we saw, are you able to write a citation? And his answer to me was, there's no parking regulations, I can't write a citation.
and that's, again, as I said,
So-
Gotta be addressed.
it's something that evolved over time, and everybody recognized that it was an issue, and we've been working for the last year or so with the township committee to try and institute regulations that will make
I
sense.
just
I've
didn't
actually,
realize that there was nothing in place.
unfortunately, there is nothing in place right now.
So, again, we're just trying to bring it to your attention that the impact of this event and other events is that, there wasn't a lot of options present to try to correct the situation. And the truck was trapped due to the cars and the the parking scenario, which we have on video, and it was a real problem, and there was limited resources to deal with it at the time, and everybody cooperated, but in the meantime, the truck was jackknifed in there for 45 minutes.
So
We have clients who couldn't get out of their buildings, they couldn't get into their buildings, and again, I'm just pointing out to you, you have a first responders access problem right there.
Well, I have a background in that, and
I understand, we're just trying to keep you informed of
we,
the
no, we
situation.
appreciate it, admittedly, and so.
this board is very progressive. I'm sure that they'll have something they'll be bringing to us. because- And I will be talking to Pat about it too, and to the mayor.
Right. Now, we appreciate your help, and we appreciate your support.
And we
Mr.
appreciate
Ryan.
the temporary support and talking to
Yeah.
the tenants. You know, we're looking for something a little more long-term, even if that's on one side of the street. Obviously, we have an economic interest, you know, my family's been a massive landowner in Lakewood since the 1960s. But this is now safety issues as well, access issues for our tenants, you know, driving major businesses that have been here for decades and decades. And we appreciate, and we know that you recognize the issue, but we're asking for some expedition here, at least for something, until there's a park and ride and a permanent solution in place. And we appreciate your time.
Thank you. And I will follow up with Committeeman Leah so that he's liaison to the LIC for the Township Committee. And he's a really effective channel for bringing our concerns to them and getting action, so.
I think he fixed the road, right? That was you.
We appreciate
It was
that.
fixed in a week, so now we're taking this one to you.
And, just for the record, I mean, we're really. here
I
on
tried.
behalf of the Life Pack
I appreciate
as well,
it.
so
Yeah, of course.
It's not, it's a global presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're still on public comment. Anybody else?
Yes,
Adam, you make a rule.
yes.
You have anything in there?
Mr. Klein.
Okay, there was before BMG came in, I don't know if it's to build an apartment complex in industrial park. No, I don't know if it's BMG or somebody's using the name of BMG to get you guys out and automatically approved it. I saw you had no objection on it. And it's mind-boggling that this committee was all there. We shouldn't put in sidewalks in the industrial park, fighting it, even though there's schools. Because this is not a place where kids should walk and people should walk. And over here, you're considering putting in an apartment complex, an industrial park, because somebody comes in and it stonewalls you that they're a BMG. It's mind-boggling the way things work in this town, that there's no objection even. But now let me speak about what they just said before. They said is that this is a research facility and it's permitted. And first of all is, I was a student in BMG. It's maybe a research facility is as far as Talmudic law, but this has nothing to do with what they're saying is they're growing the economy. It's the opposite. It's a great thing to sit and study. It's a tremendous thing. It's a religious thing. It's a Jewish thing. It's great. That's what the Bible says. But to come and say is that you have people studying Bible and Talmudic studies for years in BMG, and that helps economically later on them going on in life. It's a scam to speak this way. It has nothing to do. It's just the opposite effect. I'm not saying is that I'm against it. I'm just saying is don't come and lie to a committee that this is going to be economic growth, to have a research Talmudic facility and having the housing. Yeah, they want to have housing and thing, and they're finding the loopholes and they're changing the ordinances. But to come and say is that this is going to have economic growth in town, yes, there are people that it's bringing people to town and then they're buying houses and then the taxes go up. But this has nothing to do with helping the economy of the Industrial Commission. The fact that you're even considering it, I'm appalled what's going on over here. And the other thing that I want to bring up is the review site committee in this industrial commission is Justin Flansbaum. Now, I know in this town is, only when you say is, when there's bribes, people give money and this and that, then it's not kosher, but everything else is kosher. I'm not going to speak about giving money. I'm going to speak about a fact is that you have a planning board member that sits with applicants before the planning board using this committee to do it. It's wrong. It's ex parte. I'm not talking about the legal thing. I'm talking about it looks wrong. You have Justin Flansbaum sitting with application in a private room discussing an application, and then he sits on the planning board and he says to his pals what they should do and what, because he has beforehand information that the public doesn't have. It's wrong. It's wrong. It looks wrong. As a member of the public, this is wrong. And there might be a legal reason. I can't talk about it. But as far as public trust in the government, to have when these things, I'm not talking about money and I'm not talking about all the other corruption. I'm talking about simple fact is that the people go for, applicant goes for the planning board, a member of the public goes for the planning board. Their thinking is they have the chance to be heard. They don't realize that Justin, as far as is in the Industrial Commission, was sitting with application and coordinating everything and getting their recommendation already, because when the planning board sees a recommendation from Industrial Commission, they're not going to object to it. They don't know is that it was just one member sitting with applicant and getting all things done. I think it's wrong, it looks wrong, and I addressed it in the past. You keep ignoring it, and I'm asking, and I'll repeat it again. It looks wrong and is wrong is, and the fact that you're even considering that application of BMG and coming with these type. Listen, let me put. I'm finishing up. I have to put a disclaimer. There's no good love between me and the head of BMG, Rabbi Mokil Kotler. A few months ago, he gave a shmuz. That's called a vad. It's a speech to students, and this is what he said. You have to take this guy, the guy that records over here, okay, with another two individuals, and you have to dump them in the mikveh, that's the Jewish bathhouse, and make sure that they don't come out, and that's how they repeated in the Talmud what they did to people that you had to kill them. So this is me with the head of BMG going against me and trying to get me killed. So there's no good love, but I'm making the disclaimer is that the fact is that this BMG thing is, I don't know if it's BMG, it's just use the name is, but it looks wrong, and as a member of the public, it looks wrong, and I'm sure other people will look at the wrong too. Thank you very much. If you want, you can make a count.
Everybody in the public.
That's it. We're done.
Everybody covered?
That's it.
Okay, comments from the public. All right, Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, let me address a few things real quickly. We have a number of capital projects going on. The Strand, which was transferred to the LIC last year. The biggest one is under a program through the BPU, where we're taking the very outdated and inefficient boiler system and replacing that. There's going to be some work going on even this weekend, no disruption to traffic. And then they'll have to bring in a crane to do some switch out of some equipment on the roof. And then the boilers will be done hopefully not long after. And that's going to just give us a lot more efficiency, save money, and be good for the longevity of this historic building. There are also a number of other projects, and there's actually there's a resolution on the agenda today to authorize what has already been recommended by the Strand Subcommittee. We reviewed the proposals from the contractor to effect a number of capital improvements within the building, including additional. This, I was going to say, she should.
It's our children, they're worried about us.
The,
Well, there's an intermission with phone calls.
so there's some structural, some, not structural of the building, but things of structure of the theater. For example, there's There was identified a soft spot on the floor that needs shoring up. The stage itself, the flooring needs to be replaced. And we have sufficient funds in a grant-funded account that we've had transferred to us. When the building was transferred to us, there was enough money in there for us to cover it and have some cushion going forward. So all of that will be covered, and we ask for the commission to vote on that resolution a little later on. Also, I wanted to also address one more thing with the Strand. Some of you will remember that we had the front soffit on Clifton Avenue start to come down, or look like it was gonna come down, and we had to replace that. We went to the insurance carrier, they initially denied the claim, we went back and they denied again, but we went back and now they have approved it. So we're getting a big chunk of that money back, and that's really good news. And that'll go right back into our capital accounts, because that will be something money to shore that up and be able to protect the public from the frontage of the building.
How much did it take to approve the whole thing?
It wasn't the whole thing, I guess they did some, like aging adjustments, so I think our total expenses were in the area of 30,000, and I think they approved
Yeah,
20-something, less deductible, so it was about 18 grand coming back to us, which is really good news. I mean, it's not like we had a choice in doing the work, and we came in about 25% under projected budget, so our expectation was that we were gonna be pushing 50 grand, and it came in the mid-30s, so it's actually pretty efficient. The last thing is, I have to report here, the Integra resources we asked, because we've been negotiating with a number of businesses for a land lease and long-term land lease to them to build some very exciting businesses, so hopefully we'll have some announcements to come in the coming months. But in that negotiation, in order to, we're doing something a little out of the box for Lakewood. It's not been done before, and so we felt like we needed to have a consultant. It's not a typical appraisal where you just go out and say, okay, appraise the property, give me value, but rather in the context of what we're trying to do. So we went to Integra, and they've done a report for us, and it's available for anybody to look at, but it's going to be the underpinning for some negotiations that we have coming up with two businesses from the area that hopefully are gonna do something really exciting. So,
Just wanted to make a note that, you know, we're dealing with 100-year-old buildings, so that should be.
oh, in the case, yeah, the Strand is,
Taken.
it's a historic building, and it's 100 years old, so yes, of course. And then I have a number of things for closed session.
Okay.
On the Strand Theater boiler replacement, we've seen no paperwork on this. Is that something that should be run past us as the industrial commission
Well, so
paying for it? Like, you know,
the boiler replacement is largely being paid for through that grant from the BPU, and the subcommittee has reviewed everything from the beginning. And
That's
most
Tom.
of, yeah.
okay, I didn't know if we were
Tom and
obligated.
others.
Okay, I didn't know if we were obligated to, you know, to
Well,
at least
that's-
put our eyes on
So,
it. and
so
Nothing's come across the
So
industrial commission.
process-wise, we have the subcommittee review everything, engage in discussions with the vendors, participate in site visits. Greg and I have been to a number of site visits with them. And then they would bring their recommendation to the board. If there were issues that we needed to pull back from taking action, then we would do that. But in the interest of efficiency, having the entire issue come here on a once-a-month basis, we'll never get there. This way we're able to work it in the interim time, make progress, and then come to the board with a recommendation. And look for a decision. I'm done. Unless you have.
All right. Attorney's report.
I guess any discussions have to be placed in a closed session.
She has for closed session, she has a comment there.
No problem.
Sean always has something for okay.
No, he doesn't.
Higher.
Anita, what you got to say?
No correspondence, as I have on file here. Under the committee reports, the site review committee was distributed 2 site plans where the committee would like to take a few moments after the meeting to discuss.
Yeah, after the meeting, the site review committee will convene without the applicants. just a second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
we'll talk some more about it after the meeting, have some, and then you cite it, you can,
Is that open to the public?
no, it's a committee meeting, it's not a full open public meeting.
I just asked.
All right. We move on to committee reports.
Yeah, so the site review committee, we've said is gonna meet later. On the parks, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna leave that for January, so we'll talk. And the airport management, and development committee, we do have to get together because of, some of the business-related activity that's happening adjacent to or on the airport, and also developing the new FBO strategy, FBO contract strategy. Strand subcommittee, Tom, did I take all the thunder?
Yeah, you
Oh,
covered
sorry.
every single bit of it, we got the boiler. So, yeah, I didn't get to the show last night, but, how would that go last night?
The new promoter has done an excellent job of managing his shows, but promoting them himself and reaching out, and apparently has a following of people who've not been to the Strand before. There were about 400 people there last night, and it was very well received, and everybody seemed to have a good time, so it's progress.
That was the Beatles show?
Yes.
That's before my time.
Is that your bedtime? Finance.
Ooh. Yeah, there's nothing on the rest of the committees.
Anything to say? He's busy, hold on, I'll talk about it. Fire review, anything?
We're up to market.
We'll get there. Anything else here?
Now we covered it.
Okay.
Marketing, public relations.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Marketing and public relations.
Let's see, the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce held its Citizens of the Year dinner and honoree event. Over 220 people attended. I publicized the article and then did a follow-up, and it was on News 12 as well. So we got a lot of coverage. It was a fabulous evening. If you didn't get a chance to attend this year, put it on your calendar for next year. I wrote an article about the leaf pickup schedule for Lakewood Township. Going back just for a minute, in preparation for the Lakewood Citizens of the Year, there was a journal, and I wrote some of the bios and copy edited all of them so they were in good English, business English and grammar, so we could be proud. The Strand Theater is holding the Cabinet of Wonders on December 13th at 8 p.m. Here's a press release on that. It's a all-star cast, something that's very unusual and good for the Strand. Also, on the 14th, Santa Claus is coming to Lakewood. They're giving out free gifts to the first 2,000 kids that are 12 years and under in age. I understand, I've got to get more information on this, that the Santa Claus, this is his 50th year and he's retiring. So we're going to try to get an article on him. Isn't that wonderful? 50 years. Yeah, you got it. That's December 14th. The great-great-grandson of Charles Dickens is putting on a one-man show at the Strand, 2 p.m. Sunday, December 15th. Here's the article on that if you want to pass it around. That's very unusual. We've had a lot of press on that. It even got in the Star Ledger. Also, the LCSW held a tribute event. I attended that, and I think I talked about the first responders event that went on in Lakewood last time. So that's about it. Do you have any questions? Anything I can do to promote business? I'd be happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kay. You know, the old business?
I have nothing, scheduled to discuss. New business announced, I don't know.
We need a motion to go into closed session.
Close session.
Second.
Aye.
Let's read the resolution.
If I don't see you, have a nice holiday.
So,
Section 7, the environment there, Open Public Meetings Act, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting under circumstances, whereas this industrial commission of the township of Lakewood is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the industrial commission of the township of Lakewood and the county of Ocean as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of private and confidential matters involving any of the language in the section. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Contract negotiations and litigation. It's anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter will be made public only when the reasons for discussing and acting on it in closed session no longer exist. Said determination is made by further resolution adopted by the industrial commission. And this resolution shall take effect immediately. The time is 12:25 p.m.
now the only one that didn't want to speak was the site review committee, Justin Flansbaum. There's 2 applications on the agenda. Every other chairman spoke. He's the only one that refuses to speak, and the committee is going ahead with it. They're going to speak about it afterwards. If somebody wants to see stuff wrong, here you have it.
That you need help with, should be jumped on immediately, call me.
Okay, I appreciate
I'll
that.
talk to the sergeant in charge of traffic too, and tell him to start looking now, so maybe we can expedite it when we
Yeah,
come to the.
maybe you can identify really bad points of
problem.
interest or whatever.
Okay?
Okay?
There's a problem out there, I know that.
No, yeah, we understand. And we understand there's a lot of different uses and issues with
Was-
people, and we wanna just make
I
sure
brought
everyone's
this up
safe.
10 years ago, I brought it up that it was gonna cause a problem, and now it's causing a problem.
You
Thank you,
see-
sir. You have a nice day.
You see when
Have
stuff
a
goes
good
wrong, I just caught it.
What's
The
that?
site review committee, there was 2 applications on the agenda him
gonna
to
grab my
discuss.
jacket.
He chose not to discuss it in front of the committee, Justin Flansbaum. If you want to see when things are set to be an open meeting, to discuss it, and they choose not to discuss it, and they'll discuss it later, here you see where stuff goes wrong, and where members of the public like me sense that things go wrong.
So what you're saying.
This is wrong.
was
If it
on
wouldn't have been on the agenda, I wouldn't be so,
It was on the agenda to discuss here,
yes,
and
look.
now he wants to discuss in closed session? Is that what you're telling me?
He said after the meeting. This is unacceptable. You could see as a member of the public, I just caught you with something. You're hiding. Why are you hiding? Why was this, if it was on the agenda to discuss it in public, you didn't know that I'm coming with my cameras, why is he refusing to discuss it in public? This is public money that he's supposed. It's public things that you should discuss. If not, it shouldn't have been put on the agenda. And if it was put and you're hiding, this is called government hiding.
But I know Justin, and I don't think he's up to anything.
Come on, don't tell me this, he's such a nice guy. I just showed you something is
All right,
wrong.
I'll talk to him.
I just showed you something is
I
wrong.
got you.
I'm waiting over here because you might to choose after closed session to go back in an open to discuss this, and I'll come back. So I'm waiting.
We are gonna go back into open session, but I can call you if you want.
I will be
Are
here.
you recording now?
I'm recording now, I'll record it till after the meeting. Okay? Unless if it wouldn't go back to open, then I wouldn't have had the issue.
Will that go through?
What?
There's a lady
Yeah,
trying to-
sorry. Okay, sorry for that.
Record the closed session is not appropriate, that means after like hang curtain.
You could do whatever you want. I'm not listening in. But if you want, I know what you do by the closed session. You eat donuts. But it's okay. You went into closed session. You look how your old guys are eating. It's okay. You could eat. It's okay.
You know what? Forget it. I'm sorry I said it.
Okay. So Labor Day.
What's going on?
Basically is Justin Flansbaum, the chairman of the site review. They went into closed session. So they asked me not to record. So I told them, no, I want to record how you eat donuts by the closed session. That's what they're doing by closed session. They went into closed session and they started eating. Look. This is closed session. If anybody wants it, he tells me he will close the curtains. I'm not listening in. I'm not listening any of the discussion over here. Even though it's illegal what they're doing, they're discussing between themselves stuff by closed session. This is how closed sessions look in Lakewood. And if anybody, when it comes to open session, they make themselves look sweet, they're good, they're doing their job. Look what's going on over here. But the second thing what happened over here, even more dramatic, there was the site review committee, Justin Flanman, chairman. He saw there's cameras over here, he decided he wants to review this after the meeting. Not in the meeting, and I asked him, it will be open to the public? No, if it's on the agenda, why is he doesn't want to discuss it? It's two applications. I just spoke about him before, claiming is that it's wrong that he's a member of the planning board reviewing applications with applicants. It's totally wrong. So he chose not to speak about it. So now he's coming, the chairman, and telling me is, oh, they will go back into open after the closed session, but he didn't tell me what will happen with this. But again, I caught them, how you say it in Hebrew, al-kham. I caught them. And now they're trying to rectify it. But it doesn't make a difference if they're trying to rectify it. This is Lakewood government is. And they are wondering is why the members of the public are so frustrated with them. If they have nothing to hide, let them be open. Why they're hiding? Sorry for granting.
I should go through?
Guys, this is closed session. This is the closed session. This is how Lakewood has the closed session. It's laughable. Yeah. So actually what they're discussing now, the camera's not picking up, if you stand by the door, you could listen in. They're discussing the fact that they were not going to review the site review committee, and now they're trying to fix it up and saying is that they said they're going to review it after the meeting, but they don't realize that I asked them if it's going to be open to the public, and they told me no. So they're trying to figure out how to fix this. But this is what they're discussing in closed session. Actually, now you can know is now they're discussing closed session stuff. If it's closed session, who knows? Just to show. This is the agenda. If you see over here, the salute the flag, going down, going down. So one of the things when they go down, you see over here the site review committee. And there's different committees discussing. They discussed all the other committees. By this one, even though there's two things on the agenda, they said is they don't want to discuss it in open session. They want to discuss it after the meeting when it won't be open to the public. And then it goes down to other stuff. You see marketing and public relation, new business, closed session, consent agenda resolution. So now they must probably going to do it, open up to the public. I think that was on the agenda before, and now they're going to open it up after closed session because they were caught. Just explaining to the public, you should know what's going on over here. You can't see it, but you see there's now more discussion by closed session than open session. Open session, they're just limiting what they speak because they know they're being recorded, it's videoed. They know the members of the public would scrutinize what they're discussing. But now when it's closed session, they just have a freely talk, even though they might discuss legitimate closed session stuff. But the difference in demeanor, how they're behaving from open to closed, is totally different. That is a side effect that they use the closed session for a time to celebrate and eat.
They came back
Finish downstairs?
I didn't go down.
So me as a member of the public, I have to wait over here an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, till they finish the closed session for them to fix up a mistake, not a mistake, something that they were caught doing. So normally they go into closed session and nothing is done afterwards in open, because they know that members of the public should be able to go and shouldn't have to wait around. But over here, they're making me wait around the whole thing till they eat, until they discuss, and everything closed session, and then opening it up, and then for them to fix the mistake.
You're gonna be here? Could you do me a favor? Can you watch this for me? I spilled something on. I drank some coffee, you
No
know.
problem.
I'm a slob, so,
Not a slob.
thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Still here?
Thank you. Yeah, the coffee didn't go in the right place. Hello. Everything's okay. I think they're all down at the party. Yeah. Oh, did you go? Did you go? Oh, that's nice. It's nice to have a thank you.
They're discussing now about the street issue that the guy before was bringing up. Don't know what consistent, what they're trying, what they're allowed to discuss in closed session and what they're open session. I think this is a thing should be discussed in open session. I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
How are you?
This has to do with making an ordinance, the township, about the streets issue. Sorry.
No, down good? Oh, sorry, sorry.
You can go from the other side if you want. Same, okay.
Oh, yeah.
See, this discussion could have been an open, they're discussing now about the streets, they should then have, and one side shouldn't be able to park, an industrial park, and they met with the schools, and this all stuff that they should have discussed in open. There's no reason why this discussion is being, when it was open, nobody said anything. Goes into closed session and they have a nice talk. Hello? This will start with, you could draft. No. Yeah.
How's everything? Good. How's your, meeting? Are you waiting for them to go out? Yeah, that's okay.
Somebody
spilled coffee?
It's up, I know put down to go up now, but you could deal with it. I think it will be okay. Schaut nicht mit seinem Wabenwunsch. Nein, eigentlich ist es Scheiße, das geht nichts mehr. No. Kann ich jetzt reden? Schaut nicht mit der Leute durch. Ich verstehe. Gib mir noch 10 Minuten, 10 Minuten. Looks like now it's becoming back open to the public.
You're welcome.
And we'll see what happens.
We have resolutions. 19-1202, resolution of the Lakewood Industrial Commission authorizing the capital repairs to the Strand Theater building. You have the resolution in the back of the packet. All the old ones are back.
Second.
Ooh, wow. Okay, let me show you. Yeah. Okay, on this particular resolution, I guess we should have a roll call. I'm gonna kill you. You've got to see. So on roll call for this one, are all of those items are acceptable to move forward with? Yes?
That was in my motion, yes.
Okay. Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Colaco?
Yes.
Mr. Flansbrough?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Thank you.
And we have not a resolution, but a proclamation.
What's it, do we have to vote on this? We have to vote on this?
You don't have to, you don't have to offer
Can
it,
we
you don't
vote
have to
item by
provide
item?
anything.
No, would you like,
But,
I'm gonna read it out loud.
Yes.
I think somebody with a nice booming voice should do this.
Want me to read this?
Would you please?
Sure, sure. Whereas Neil Brooks, having served as commissioner to the Lakewood Industrial Commission since his appointment on January 20th, 2011, and whereas Mr. Brooks has served responsibly and has maintained the highest standard of conduct in his representation of the commission and on behalf of the residents of Lakewood in his involvement with fostering economic growth and providing employment opportunities for Lakewood residents, and whereas during his term reappoints, Mr. Brooks served, his reappointment, Mr. Brooks served actively on the commission, having maintained an outstanding attendance record at commission functions and meetings, and whereas Neil Brooks, having served as chairman of the commission's park control, signs, advertising, and promotion committee, and as an active and valuable member of the commission's finance, client review, and contract review committees over his terms, has provided continued leadership to the commission's operations consistently, diligently, and unselfishly. And whereas during his tenure as commissioner, Lakewood has seen impressive trade and industrial growth as a result of the expansion and development of its industrial zones, developed under the auspices of the Lakewood Industrial Commission and its leadership, and whereas Mr. Brooks' active participation and visionary actions added to that of his peers brought Lakewood into national recognition as a northeastern hub of a light, clean industry and business community, having been ranked as the second largest municipally operated industrial center in the state of New Jersey. Therefore, the commissioners of the Lakewood Industrial Commission hereby proclaim our appreciation and recognition of Neil Brooks' untiring and consistent efforts exhibited on our behalf and of outstanding leadership provided during his tenure, thereby having been concluded on December 31st, 2019.
I think my mom did. My mom wrote it.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
That's okay.
No, you don't
Very
have to
impressive,
impress
clever wrote it, very impressive. Very impressive, thank you. I don't even know if I could have lived up to that.
Everybody gets to hear the eulogy before.
Yeah.
I had known I could add my own
Now you're
paragraph.
gonna say. I'm sure it would have been very good. Now that you know how important you are, maybe I can want to stay.
No. I thought about that, no.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think we are, closed session is done.
Mhm.
And
Everything is
And
done.
also in the back is just some articles that offset resurface, Suffolk is building a new building. And a luminaire facility in Lakewood is, expanding. And also, just to let you know, Watchung has been acquired by Nestle. So it's just for your information, there's a lot of activity.
This is very impressive.
Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
That was the comments from the commissioners.
Oh, you wanna have a comment?
Thank you to everybody. It's been wonderful. Maybe I'll come as a civilian and sit in the audience and present things that I find around the park. It'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Neil.
Uh-oh. Are you throwing stuff?
Yeah.
So obviously, they're not discussing this site review committee, what Justin Flansbaum refused to discuss. We'll wait around because they said that they're going to discuss it after the meeting, even though it's not open to the public.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I guess there's some stuff.
So I guess Justin is leaving, so he's not going to discuss it. So what they said that they're going to review it after the meeting, somehow a lie. And even the engineer is leaving from the engineering department. Now we have the chairman leaving. So let's go see where they went. Maybe they went to a different room to discuss it. No, township planner went in over there. Doesn't think he's going to discuss anything. Just going to go around over here. Hello. You know, we came back over here. Let's see what's left over here from the guys. No, it looks like they're all leaving, even though he came back. Justin didn't come back to the room, just the chairman. So obviously, yes, they're not discussing it. So we'll shut the live stream.